Good morning, everybody. I'm Sam Albrecht with the Division of Housing. It's February 18th, and this is the Technical Advisory Committee meeting for the implementation of Senate Bill 25-002. I'm going to share my slide deck now, and we will go through the agenda, and then we will go through and work through all these slides in order to get to our final goal, which is to come up with new administrative rules for the implementation of Senate Bill 25-002. And we will talk about where we are and where we need to go to get that done. With that said, can everybody see the slides okay? Okay, good. Thank you. So the agenda, again, welcome. Just some ground rules for the public as we move through this. We have been doing a lot of outreach, and we have been advertising the TAC as a place to come. You get free coffee, you get great advice, we have great discussions. So we're seeing more and more people kind of start popping into this, which is a great thing for us to really get all interested parties involved in this. And we're going to talk a little bit more about interested party outreach today also. We'll look over the resources and then we'll jump into the meat of the meeting today, which is some more administrative rule edits, updates to the regional design criteria, update on contractor education. We'll talk about the SHUMA update, and then we'll wrap up a little. So ground rules for the public. As I mentioned, all the free virtual coffee you want. We appreciate your time here. This is a very important process for the state to implement Senate Bill 25-002, which is the goal of this is to provide design criteria regions for the manufacturers to prepare models that can go into multiple jurisdictions. There is a lot of other stuff in this bill also. Registration of contractors and third-party agencies, allowing business entity for installers. And so we just want to make sure that it's not just for the design criteria regions, even though that is the title of the bill. We recommend if any guests here have questions, typing your questions into the chat or virtually raising your hand if you would like to speak. I will give priority to TAC members, especially if we start running short on time, but we do want to hear from everybody that has input on this. And then if you have any written comments after the meeting, please send them to me at sam.albrecht@state.co.us, and we'll get those responses to you just as quick as we can. Heather is putting some resources in the chat. Also, thank you, Heather. If you want to click through those. All of our previous meetings have also been recorded, and the slide deck and the video recording is available to the public on the Technical Advisory Committee website. The resource page, here's Senate Bill 25-002. That's the bill that we're talking about. This is a hot link to that. And then we are controlled by CRS 2432, 3301 to 3329. You can find that on this link at Colorado Legal Resources provided by LexisNexis. You just have to drill down into 2432, 3301. And it's a fairly intuitive drill down menu to get there. A link to the current administrative rules that have been approved and adopted. And so those are available for you to look at, to kind of give you background in what it is we're looking at changing. And then the Building Codes and Standards website and also the Technical Advisory Committee website are both links and both resources for you. So the 002, our implementation goals, is to simplify the process, and we try that, even though it's a very complex process, and we're dealing with a lot of local jurisdictions and a lot of manufacturers and a lot of different interested parties. Our North Star, if you want to call it that, is to simplify, keep our rules and procedures clean and transparent and easy to follow. And so that's our overarching goal, and we're trying to do that as effectively as we can. So let's jump into what we have edited since our last February 4th meeting. Donnie has done a good job going through all the IBC or ICC codes to kind of see what amendments that we had in the 21 code set that either need carried over or modified into the 2024 code set or deleted because 2024 the code has updated them. So we'll jump into the IBC. This just provides clarification on section 901.2.1, and that says that the design approval, rough inspection, and final test required by this section shall be approved by a division-approved quality assurance representative. That was a direction we saw in statute, and we just wanted to clarify it in the IBC here. And then still in the IBC, the wind speed, we have stricken quite a bit of that, and what we have left it as is that the 3-second gust blast wind speed shall be in accordance with the local jurisdiction requirements. The exposure category shall be a minimum of C unless otherwise justified to be less restrictive. The rest of that's strike through. And TAC members or public, if there's any questions that you want to ask along the way, just raise your hand or throw something in the chat or just holler out at me. Then we're going to jump into the IRC. The IRC, we're going to amend that to look at table 301.5 on live loads. And we added footnote J, when the allowable stress design ASD flat roof snow loads is above 40 PSF, decks, external balconies, fire escapes, or other walking services must be designed to consider the maximum flat load roof snow load or the design live load. Then we struck quite a few of the IRC amendments that we previously had regarding exterior walls, dwellings with sprinklers, glazing adjacent to stairs and ramps, and glazing adjacent to the bottom of the stair landing. Section R 319.1, emergency escape and rescue opening required. We added a couple words to the first sentence. You can see it there. Cape Cod style attics that qualify as a story and every, and then we just continued the amendment after that. We struck shall require one operable emergency and escape opening. Any questions so far? Okay. 2.2.6, automatic fire sprinkler systems. We deleted the sections and replaced it with the following. I'm sorry, that's what the amendment says. An automatic fire sprinkler system shall be installed in 1 and 2 family dwellings and townhouses when required by the local jurisdiction where the home will be set. Design approval, rough inspection, and final tests required by this section shall be approved by a division-approved quality assurance representative. All right. Section 311.5, interconnection is a modification, and we want to revise physical interconnection of carbon monoxide alarms shall not be required where listed wireless alarms are installed. And ... to physical interconnections of carbon monoxide alarms shall not be required where listed wireless alarms are installed in existing construction when approved by the Division of Housing and ... All right, so that's the changes in Rule 2 to the code set so far. Okay. Factory built structures, we took a look again at 4.31, and we provided some red line recommendations that factory built structures may not be modified prior to or during construction certification without approval of the Division of Housing. Once permanently installed and certified, and this is for factory built residential structures only, any modifications to the structure, both residential and non-residential, is under the jurisdiction of the local building department. If a temporary structure, 4.31.1, Dean, I see your question. We'll come back to you in just a second. If a temporary structure is modified after it is certified by the division for its construction, modifications must be made at an offsite location certified by the division. In addition, the modified unit must be recertified for its new construction. And then if a modular structure is modified on site and inspected by the local jurisdiction must remove the original construction insignia and notify the division, because at that point, it's no longer a modular if the locals are doing the inspection for the modifications. Dean, you had a question on wireless units that cannot get them to interconnect correctly.
No, sorry, Dean, Dean's was why wireless only in existing buildings and not new construction.
Yeah.
So what we found is that over the years, individuals that did use the wireless connection for new construction, every time we went out to go do the inspections for them, they never got them to actually connect correctly. One would go off, but wouldn't set off any of the others. And so the wireless option, we amended that out as an option for new construction, but kept it in there for existing construction, just so they didn't have to tear down drywall and run wires from each device through the entire structure. They can still have the ability to use the wireless in those situations.
So
Gotcha. So I just want to be cautious that we're not codifying the prohibition of new technologies is all. It just seems like there's a lot of great products on the market now, and a lot of that is resolved through the monitoring systems. Granted, these are larger buildings, so if somebody has a smaller project, it may not be monitored. But there's got to be other ways to work around that, because it's really compelling technology, especially in the context of offsite construction, where that's just more wires that have to be pulled. And if that can be done wirelessly, which the technology is there, I hate to see that codified out.
Okay.
I may not be.
Donnie, any other thoughts on that?
No, other thoughts.
Okay. Dean, we'll take a look at that. All right. Let's see. Any other questions so far? Okay. So that was the Rule 4 change that we talked about. And then Rule 5 is the third-party agency section. And so what we want to do here is add a 5.6 and a 5.61 that prior to approving construction plans on behalf of the Division of Housing, a third-party agency applying for registration must submit 3 sets of approved construction plans to the division for review. Plans must be compliant with division adopted codes, regulations, and design criteria regions, and should not contain any life safety issues. The division may request to review additional plans or may conduct audits to assess compliance prior to issuing the registration. 561, third-party agency must be registered for at least 1 year and submit 10 sets of approved construction plans to the division for review. Plans must comply with requirements in Rule 5.6 with no significant review or audit findings for a third-party agency to be eligible for certification. Wayne, you had a question in the chat. Have we officially defined a division-approved qualified assurance representative? We do have that. Yes, we have defined that. Donnie, you want to remind me? I know we have quality assurance representative defined in the in
I believe it's in
chapter 1.
statute. I
And
believe
it's
it's in
yeah,
statute. Yeah.
yeah.
But I'm looking at it right now. I'll send you the section link.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Donnie.
Any other questions on this slide on third-party agencies? Okay. Local governments, if a modular structure is modified on site and inspected by the local government must remove the original construction insignia and notify the divisions. That gives us the ability to put a flag in our system that that unit has been modified. And from the original set of construction drawings that we have on file. All right, some clarifications in the enforcement part of the rules, chapter 12. We added a text in 12.311 where we clarified that if a construction inspection, investigation, or audit of a factory-built structure finds results or items that need correction, a correction notice will be issued. And then we struck the rest of that because we cover that in another rule here in just a second. 12.3.2, no changes. 12.3.3, if a registered party has violated these rules, failed to resolve a correction notice or a deviation report, or statute 24-32, 33, 100, the Division of Housing may issue a corrective action letter, which may include a fine, suspension, or revocation of registration or a denial of re-registration. Remember, this is enforcement. Donnie, thanks for that quote for what the definition of a quality assurance representative is.
Hey, Sam,
Okay.
I was actually looking at the rules. The statute's helpful, but the rules provide more context. You've got a reference typo in the rules. The authorized quality assurance representative is rule 1.1, but it references rule 1.30 for the definition of a third-party agency. That should be rule 1.35.
Okay.
And I'll put those two rules in the chat so Wayne can see the rule clarification of what a quality assurance representative is.
Thanks, Mo.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Donnie.
Mhm.
All right, so that's the end of the red lines as we have them today. Any other? Oh, Tim, you've got your hand up. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Question on the slide you have up under enforcement.
Okay.
So this correction notice is really just primarily under the plan review portion. Is that correct?
So there's no. The correction notice is usually issued if we go out and find something wrong at this is for on-site inspection of installation, or when we walk through to do the oversight inspection of the unit. If we find, or if we're doing a complaint inspection, if we find issues, then we issue a correction notice.
Okay, thanks.
The deviation report is primarily plan review.
Okay, thank you. And so with that correction notice, if there's a contractor that has multiple projects going and this particular situation comes up based on a particular project, how would that impact the other projects that are under permit in progress?
Well, that's a good question, Tim. We do have a daily huddle where we talk about where our field inspectors are going and what they're going to be looking at and who the installer and the developers are. Everybody is aware of correction notices against an installer or a manufacturer. And so we keep our eyes open. I don't know that we have any rule regarding going back and looking at all the open projects of a installer or a manufacturer, but we certainly have the right to do that. And then we can, of course, if we start seeing multiple problems or for any reason at all, we can flag an audit to take a look at open projects as well as recently closed projects.
Okay, yeah, then a follow-up question on that. I know with our process in my jurisdiction where the contractor pulls a permit and has to have an updated or correct contractor license. And so if for some reason we revoked or denial re-registration, if their contractor license went inactive in the middle of that job, then the way our system works, they would not be, and they had other permits in the system wouldn't allow them to call in inspections on the other permits until that license was reactivated. And I'm not sure if you have a similar setup for how permits are issued and inspections are called in, or
I don't know that we have a system set up like you're talking about because we don't do the permits. We just, scheduling the inspections. But if a person's registration is suspended or non-renewed, then we certainly work with to find a replacement installer. And typically that's the piece of it. With respect to the building contractors now for site prep work, that's going to be more under the purview of the local building department. And then, of course, then we'd work in conjunction with them. And then also with the OC work, if there was a correction notice put in for that for the building contractor, we will not place an insignia until everything looks good and is done by a registered individual. Donnie?
Yeah, just as you're saying that we don't have permits, we have assets, and an asset is just a record of the construction of the building. And so that's how we track any inspections. When the manufacturer would schedule an inspection for that unit, you look at that asset. The individuals that are on the asset before we do send anybody out, those are verified for the registrations, just making sure that they're still current. I think the last thing you want to do is, like let's say we're doing installation inspection and they schedule for the inspection itself and the installer is not registered, we will withhold from doing that inspection until they get their registration completed so that they're current. So we do have a process in place, and they also get 60-day, 30-day, and the day they expire emails, notifications that of their registration. So I think we can apply that to the contractors as well for those that are registered with us that, hey, 60 days from today, you're going to expire. 30 days from today, you're going to expire. Today, you expired. Right.
good deal. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. I am looking at Dean's comment in the chat. And I'm not sure I understand your chat, Dean's. And I'll read it for the group. I presume the edits to the amendments are intended to align with the most restricted case for all jurisdictions at initial adoption. The administrative rules with respect to the amendments we're making have always been in place. So I'm not sure what you mean by initial adoption there.
Yeah, you went through some of those amendments, Sam, that were kind of specific to things that this group hasn't necessarily talked at much about. I don't see any, big red flags or anything like that. I'm just trying to understand, like, are we sweeping those into this legislation so that it's kind of a complete code package that is going to make every jurisdiction happy, and that probably includes resolving some of these amendments where the state wasn't requiring something where a local jurisdiction otherwise would. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Dean, that absolutely makes sense. So what we have always done, and you bring up a good point, and that is that when we change our code set, because we have adopted ICC codes um, with amendments. These amendments, when we moved to the from 2018 to 2021, we went through the 2021 code set, checked our 2018 amendments, see what needed to carry forward, and see what needed to be deleted. So we've done the same thing now for 24, since we've made that decision to move to the 24 code set. Donnie goes back and takes a look at all those amendments side by side with the 21 already adopted amendments. So just as a matter of course, when we adopt a new building code, we go through and look at adding amendments, deleting amendments, or modifying amendments to that code set. And I know some jurisdictions do that also, but the design criteria is now the big part of 002, and we'll be adopting design criteria, regional design criteria that will also be a part of things. So if we change to the 27 or the 30, we'll have to do the whole thing again. We'll have to go through and not only look at the I codes, but also the design criteria for future changes to it. Does that make sense?
It sure does. Thanks for the clarification on that, Sam.
You bet. It sets the baseline for what we're going to, because I see we found that the I codes are not perfect, and then we find things from manufacturers and other references that just don't work out as well, or are not Colorado specific enough. And so we make those modifications just like every other regional building department. But this is the code set the manufacturers will be building to effective July 1. Now, just with that said, there is a transition time. If they already have approved plans, and I think everybody knows this on the TAC, if they already have plans in the queue that are being reviewed from the 2021 code set, we are not going to turn everything off on July 1st. They have 180 days to get those plans approved. And so there will still be some 21 units coming in after the 1st of July, but any new plans being started will be on the 24 code set. I want to go to Donnie and Wayne. I'll come right back to you.
Yeah, just real quick, Dean, a lot of those edits where we strike them through is that we ended up being more stringent on the requirement, especially for like glazing. And so the code already addresses some other, similar requirements in the 24 that are less stringent. So instead of having some kind of, or creating a situation where we are limiting what a manufacturer builder can do versus what a site builder can do, some of those were struck out to make it equivalent, not necessarily to be consistent with the locals, but just to not limit the design allowances that are in the 24 for manufacturers compared to what we had amended already.
Got it. Thank you.
No.
Thanks, Donnie. Wayne?
Yeah, thanks. So I'm just kind of reading through the definition for the third-party agency, and I'm just kind of wondering, particularly as it relates to IRC 313 and IBC 901, where are we planning on defining minimum credentials associated with the third-party agencies, and really minimum credentials in general? My thought is this might be the location, and I know, Donnie, we've talked about this a little bit, of where we would potentially dovetail in state suppression rules. Just trying to get a little better context of where we think that needs to fit in here.
You're talking about specifically for the fire suppression requirements?
Yeah, so it would be
Yeah.
IBC 901.2.1 is what is prompting the conversation. But yeah, somewhere in IBC Chapter 9, 901 makes sense. And then also I think it's ROC R313.
Yeah, so I think the idea was to take what was already created through the Colorado Fire Prevention and Control for their minimum criteria for plans examining inspections and installers, and then modifying them as needed to fit the program, and had those requirements in place because people already meet those qualifications, and so why change them? We would have something minimum to start with, and then down the road, if needed, we can modify that, depending on what requirements might come down the road for fire suppression systems. But I think that's the idea, is to use that language, or at least similar language in our rules for those qualifications.
Yeah, I would agree. I guess I'm just saying that in this language under authorized quality assurance representative, maybe it's by reference from these other CRSs. I'm not as familiar with these CRSs as maybe I should be. It feels like we're not defining specifically what those credentials would actually be. And if that's
so we
better
sorry,
somewhere else, that's fine.
Yeah, we wouldn't define them in the statute, but in the TPA sections, that's where it'll get clarified what those qualifications are. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
And remember, we have third-party agencies that are doing in-plant construction, and we have third-party agencies that are doing plan reviews. So those qualifications have to be listed in both locations. And then for the manufacturer, for their quality, every manufacturer has to submit a quality assurance manual or to us on how and the qualifications of their people on what they're doing. So that's also in the manufacturer section.
Okay. Okay, I think that's all I got for now. Thank you.
Thanks, Wayne. All right. Everybody ready to jump to design criteria regions? All right, here we go. So this is the draft map that we're looking at. We're still looking at now 6 potential snow and wind regions. Donnie, you want to talk through this a little bit?
Yeah. So as you can see, it's changed, not a lot, but it has changed. Getting some feedback from a few TAC members, and then also I don't know if you remember Shums Koda's slides that they had on the last TAC meeting, where it kind of made it a little more granular when it comes to wind and snow regions. The 43 that you see that's new for Region 1 is equivalent to roughly a 30-pound roof snow load. So that was added in the Region 1, and then you'll see that the wind map has changed. And so it's a little more granular, not 8 or 9 regions. It is 6, but if you look at the concept that we've created from the beginning, regions 1 through 5 are your prescriptive regions, and then 6 is just going to be the site-specific region. And I'm thinking, I'm not sure if we just do Region 6 or we just say site-specific, because it's not really a region. It's a specific site, right? So maybe just changing that wording a little bit, or changing that just to make it a little clearer. It's not region. It's a site-specific model. But based on the feedback that we got, I think it would be a good idea to add the 30-pound in there, although it creates a little more variability in the different designs you can do. If we got jurisdictions that are allowing a 30-pound as of today in their jurisdiction, maybe there are some manufacturers that do not start at 40; they start at 30, right? So giving them a region that they can design to without having to update all their structural drawings to start at 40. Based on the initial conversations that we had, a lot of manufacturers said, "Hey, all of our trusses start at 40, and we go up from there," right? So that's why we had the 40 in there. But after, a few weeks now, some manufacturers are saying, we don't start at 40, and we would have a cost increase just to get our plans redesigned to start at 40 instead of 30. So I threw 30 in there, which is the 43 pound roof snow load, or not roof, ground snow load for the ASD on the left side of the table and the Ultimate on the right side of the table. And then like I said, you'll notice that the wind regions have changed. And we'll get into why that is the way it is. But just a quick overview is that it aligns with the special wind region tables for the 700-year average or the risk category 2 structures on that SEAC document for the special wind region in Colorado. The only problem that we have is that that wind map only covers a portion of these special wind regions in Colorado. But based on conversations that I had with Denver in the past, there's a member there that works with SEAC directly. And then also some feedback that I got from Shums Coda that Colorado is actually in the process of updating the map. And I think they are going to include that bottom portion of Colorado on the future map. I think they're looking for some funding to try to pay for that those case studies for that the new area on the map. But there'll be even more material that we can reference when going to the special wind regions. But if you look at that map, the SEAC document, it goes 115, 125, 140, 150, 165. And then anybody who's building over 165, that's just going to be site specific, right? But as a designer or as a manufacturer, if I am building in these special wind regions areas in Colorado, that if I build to one of these wind regions that are on this table, I will fit within one of those wind regions that are on the SEAC wind map. So there's no I think originally we had 120, 130, 140, 150, but the way it was designed compared to the special wind region map, it would put you in the middle of two different areas, right? So if we just use the same lines, that map through SEAC, we can just use that as reference. And then if there's a structure going into the lower portions of Colorado where the map does not cover, we could just utilize the local data that we're gathering from the local building departments for those special wind regions, what their minimum wind speeds would be for that location. So there's any questions about how the table is laid out now? Like I said, although there is a change, it's not that big of a change. It's still the same concept. It's just there's one more category in there.
And we appreciate everybody that's provided input to this. And of course, thanks to Shums Coda also for taking a look at this with hard eyes. But there are jurisdictions, like Donnie said, that are 30, and we did hear from folks saying, why can't we just build to a 30 load? So there we go.
Yeah. The other thing too, just with the, when we talked about the site specific model, if somebody wanted to do the 30 pound site specific, it just made more sense just to add the 30 in there, just so you don't have to do site specific every time you wanted to do a 30 pound roof snow load. You put a region there, you design your structural plans around a 30 pound roof snow load, and you have a region that you can cover. It's just not going to cover as much area as we originally designed it to with the 40. I think it drops the data coverage from 60 something, I think 62% of Colorado data points down to 34% coverage in data points. So, but although it drops to 34, that 20 something percent is now in the region 2 area. So it works itself out. And if there's anything that you guys have feedback on this, please reach out, let us know.
Yep. I'm getting a lot more comfortable that this is pushing toward our final. And so David Wren had a good question in the chat. And can you explain why allowable and ultimate snow loads are the same? Well, in the I codes, they use different terminology apparently. And one is allowable stress design, which is in the IRC. and the other is an ultimate stress design, which is in the IBC. So it really makes a difference if you're looking at what we classify as residential structures, or if it's an IBC unit, which could be non-residential or a multifamily construction project.
Yeah, and then David, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the 2024, but in the 2024 they adopt the ASCE 7-22. It's no longer ASCE 7-16. So in the 22 version, they give you, every data point that that's in the wherever the project's at will give you the ultimate ground snow load for that location. But the ASCE 22 gives you a factor of 0.7 for residential construction. So although they residential and commercial start at the same point initially, for residential construction, you can start your low calcs using that ASD value, which is 0.7 of the ultimate value. So that's why they look the same, but they're not actually the same, because the residential side is the ASD value of the ultimate. So if you did 43 ground snow load ASD and you divided that by 0.7, that would give you your ultimate value. While on the right side of the table, the 43 is already your ultimate value.
Yeah,
David, you came on camera. You got
I
to
did.
follow up.
Yeah, I guess I'm confused. I mean, like I said, the difference is a 0.7 factor between the two. Yet looking at this, a location that has a ground snow of 43 for allowable stress design would have an ultimate ground snow load of like 61. So these snow regions are like different locations if you're using the same value here. I mean, shouldn't the ultimate here be the allowable divided by 0.7
So
to be an equivalent ground snow load?
So in the ASCE 7-22, it allows you to reduce the ultimate by 0.7 to get your ASD ground snow load.
Mm-hmm.
So on the left side of the table, 43 is your ASD ground snow load for residential, right? On the right side of the table, that is your ultimate. So if you're doing your roof calcs, roughly they're about the same. On the commercial side, it's going to be a little bit different, but if you're doing on the residential side an additional 0.7 to calculate your roof snow load, it's roughly a 30-pound roof snow load, right? On the right side of the table, you're going to have to account for all the different factors, but it's still roughly a 30-pound roof snow load, depending on the slope and all the additional factors. But your starting point for your calculations are 43 ASD for residential and 43 ultimate for commercial.
Yeah, I guess my point is for a given location, those two numbers are different, whereas you put them the same. So your regions would change if you're doing allowable stress versus ultimate, because they're not equivalent numbers here. I'm missing something here.
I think from
the 43 ultimate would only be a roof snow load of 20 something for allowable stress design.
Yeah, like I said, it'd be roughly equivalent to a 30-pound, right? Because it just depends on the roof slope and quite a other few factors. I think your thermal value.
Right. Yeah, it does.
Right. So it can change, it can vary, but you're starting out at 43 ultimate for that calc, right? So your region is based on the data that you receive through the ASCE. So if I use the ASCE hazard tool and I pick a location, it says that location for a commercial structure is a 43-pound ground snow load ultimate. That's where I'm starting out at, right? If I pick a location that let's just say it's higher up in the mountains and it's at 60, you said 60 something ultimate ground snow load, but it's for a residential project, and you use that 0.7 and it's the 43, that's where you start at for residential. So your starting points for your calcs are different, but they ultimately come from the same ultimate value. I'm trying to say, like, maybe Justin, if Justin's here, maybe he can explain it a little bit better than I can. But
I don't see
Sure.
Justin today.
no, they look the same, but the starting points for your load calcs for your roof are not starting at the same point when you do residential calcs versus commercial calcs. Like I said, on the commercial side, the IBC, you are using your ultimate value. On the residential side, you are using that 0.7.
Right. But for a given location, those two numbers are not the same. That's why I'm wondering why
Well,
the
we know
why
that
the table's the same for
we know that it's going to be
regions.
the same, but the data is the same, right? We know that point, even if it's two different locations, if they had the same ground snow load value, it would be the same, right? We know that one point is not going to be the same. So if I was to pick a point where I'm standing right now, I know that it's not going to be 43 ASD and 43 ultimate. But I know that if I pick my point where I'm standing now and it's 43 ultimate, if I do the 0.7 of 43 is, I don't have a calculator. It's 32.9. So my ASD value for my location is 32.9, right? So that'll be less than 43, but I would still fit within region 1 if I'm doing residential construction. Okay.
David, you don't
Yeah.
seem convinced.
I think
Yeah,
just for the sake of
maybe I'm
time,
missing. I don't know.
yeah, maybe just for the sake of time, I could set up a meeting with you.
Yeah,
You're in
that'd be
Denver,
great.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's do
I
that.
could set up a meeting with you and just walk through it with you. But although they look the same, they are not the same, right? Because one's the ultimate value, the other one is already considering the 0.7 reduction, right? It's for ASD values.
David, if you could stick your email in the chat, that'd be great. We'll reach out to you, or phone number.
Donnie knows how to get a hold of me.
Oh, does he? Okay, good.
Yeah, he's a contact that I have with the updated what I knew about the state of Colorado updating the SEAC map.
Okay,
Yeah, so
cool. All right.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions on where we are? All right, let's roll through some of this. Donnie, any changes from last time to this time on the other minimum design criteria? I
no,
know we changed some footnote stuff, and we're going to jump into the footnotes in just a second, but I don't think this has changed much.
Yeah, and then also, David, we put footnote for those snow loads to kind of clarify that a little bit. Hopefully, it makes sense when you read the footnote.
Okay.
So yeah, nothing's changed there, but for the next slides, the way that the next slides are going to kind of give an overview of how you use the table, and hopefully this helps clarify some questions that you may have of how do we actually use the table, how do we set the regions, how do we use the minimum criteria. So the next couple slides will kind of go through that, and then I think the last slide for this regional code is going to be your footnotes.
Correct.
Okay.
So we've got 5 slides coming on how to use the table. So Donnie, you want to walk us through these?
Yeah, so these are just going to be the procedures of using the table, right? So just kind of gives you the general layout of the table itself, how the data is used when you're doing your design. So regions for regional model are for regional models only, and the use of regional design data is set to set minimum design standards for structures and their final set location to meet or exceed the site-specific requirements. So kind of the example that I gave David, if I pick today or where I'm standing right now, and let's just say that it was a 43-pound ultimate, and then I did the 0.7 ASD conversion, and it reduced it down to 32.9, my site-specific information that I have where I'm at will be the minimum requirement for my site location. But depending on If the locals had something that were lower or higher, we would either meet that local's requirements if we're higher than theirs. But if they were higher than us, we would be lower than theirs, but we would have site-specific information that is specific to the site where the project's happening, not just a blanket approach saying like, hey, just across the board, our jurisdiction's a 30-pound roof snow load, you're less than ours type of issue, right? Using the regions should meet or exceed every local jurisdiction as of today's standards based on the 2024 code requirements and the standards that are adopted through the 2024. The 2024 uses the ASCE 7 standard, and then through the ASCE standards, it says that you can use the ASCE hazard tool to verify a site location's design criteria. And when you use that tool, it gives you wind, it gives you snow, it gives you seismic, it gives me tornado, it gives you other selections that are in there, I think rain and a couple other ones that you can select from. But it will give you the most current information for today's standards for a specific site location. So just remember that the regions are regional models only. And then the region design criteria sets the minimum standards for structures and their final set location. So if you design to a 30, if you design a structure to a 30-pound roof or the roof snow load, which is the 43 ASD for residential or the 43 ultimate for commercial, you know that your structure is going to be good for any location in Colorado where you verify that the site data is a 30-pound or less. Okay. And then the site-specific or the alternate construction models are site-specific and not transferable to other locations. If you want to do a regional model, then you have to pick a regional design criteria. So snow region 1, snow region 2, all the way up to 5. Same thing for the wind regions. Wind region 1 through 5, and then region 6 on both areas are going to be site-specific. There is no I'm going to do a custom model where I'm in between two regions, and then you try to transfer that to other locations, right? The regions 1 through 5 are your prescriptive paths for a regional model, and your site-specific models are for site-specific. Okay. Minimum criteria or minimums. Site-specific data still needs to be confirmed, and design meets the specific site value. So there are some things that are on the minimum design table, like seismic. We start at a minimum of B, but there are locations in Colorado that are C. So there's further down in the slides, we'll get into how to confirm that, some methods of confirming that. But the minimum table itself is setting the minimum requirement across the board. If there's a more stringent requirement at the site location, then we must use that more stringent requirement. Okay. Does that make sense? Or any questions? No. Okay. So using the regional table of values for the design. So we'll use the ASCE hazard tool to confirm site data for snow loads. Locals that have a lesser known value will allow a reduction in regional design as long as the region design meets or exceeds the local value and the new model is approved through the Division of Housing. So let's say that I have a design that is a region 1, but using the ASCE hazard tool, it puts it slightly higher than region 1 values. So let's say that it's at a 46 ground snow load ASD for a residential construction, but the region 1 is a 43. 30-pound, and the locals allow a 30-pound in their jurisdiction, you should be able to allow, or you should be allowed to use that region 1 model in that jurisdiction because it will be equivalent to that jurisdiction's design criteria. But structurally, structurally it'll meet their requirement, right? But you just have to make sure you actually have that plan or that design approved. So you don't want to not submit that plan through the Division of Housing, even though the locals approve a 30-pound. You still got to get that plan approved through the Division of Housing or one of our quality assurance representatives. Okay. And then locals that have a higher value than the ASE hazard tool must submit a case study as evidence to show that that location needs to be higher, the higher value for that location. So let's say that you do have a Region 1 model that's a 43-pound ground snow load ASD, which is roughly a 30-pound roof snow load, and the local said, no, our information shows that it's a 40-pound roof snow load across the board for the entire jurisdiction. That exceeds our requirements, and knowing that our information is the most current information out there for wind and snow loads, we, the Division of Housing, would have that conversation with the locals and say, if this is the value that you believe your jurisdiction needs across the board, then we would have them go through a process of submitting records to us to prove that that site location requires a higher snow load. Any questions on that? No?
Quick, I don't know if it's as much as a question as a thought, Donnie, but obviously the development, all of this is the work that we're doing now, but I presume that the state is going to have resources allocated to provide FAQs and a roadmap. I don't know if you saw my email this morning, but I mean, I think there's a well thought out game plan. But the outward public that doesn't have all this institutional knowledge of what we've been through the last 6 months is going to have lots of questions on just how to apply this. So hopefully that's also in the works as we come to culmination here of developing that roadmap, case study examples, or all those examples you literally just gave. Like if we could get that written down and put on a website somewhere so people know how to use this tool.
Yeah, so I would say that there's a well thought out process that is being developed. It really just depends on what TAC is wanting to do. This is just a proposal, right, to you guys. I would really need you guys to pick apart this proposal and we can clean out anything that may not work correctly, right? If this is something that we are good with as a TAC, as everybody here, then we can move forward with actually confirming what will be in those education, those Q&As, those FAQ documents, right? Like I said, it's more of a working process now until we get confirmation from TAC that this is the way that we want to go. Otherwise, we're going to create this process and then we go a different direction. Then we did all that work for nothing, right? So
so that Donnie, I'll interrupt. The short answer to your question, Dean, is yes. After we get this model lined up, then we are, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to have interested party meetings before we file the final rules. And then after we file, or after we go to State Housing Board and they're approved, then we start having webinars again after the fact that says, okay, these are the new rules and here's clarification on how we're implementing them and what resources do you need. And then we actually record those and we record the slide decks and then we put them on and then we put updates into the newsletter. But yes, we realize that this is a big change and we're not done on July 1st. We're almost just getting started with making sure everybody's compliant, and that's a tough word, but we're a regulatory agency, right? To make sure everybody understands what is expected, and hopefully before they start submitting stuff to us. So we do have that in our implementation plan for these new administrative rules.
Perfect. No, thanks for that, Sam. And Donnie touched on something really important, which is even for the TAC committee to, sort of approve or adjust the proposal that we're talking about. I think it might even be instructive for those of us on the committee to see what that roadmap might look like. Let's take an example project. What needs to happen on the title page for this to make sense and to work? And then can factories implement that into their workflows? If it's an easy documentation thing, then probably yes. But if it's 6 days of researching individual jurisdictions and comparing some cross matrix with what the state has on that jurisdiction on a certain date. And, you know, like, I think understanding the procedures will go far in everybody's internal understanding of saying, yeah, if this is a good plan, let's move forward with it. Because invariably, a year from now, we're going to make some discoveries that nobody was able to foresee, right? And then what do we do with those anomalies, that particular site that doesn't seem to fit anywhere in the ecosystem, but seems like it should, you know, that kind of stuff. I have no doubt we will see that, but we don't know it until we start to apply it. And then understanding, is that is there a year after follow up to make any final tweaks, or do we wait until the next version of the code update to sweep those tweaks into it?
Mhm.
So there's a couple levels there, Dean, and I don't disagree with anything you said. And so if we're dedicated now to do whatever work is necessary to get these rules done, right? But yes, it's a live and learn type thing. Anything that we can do procedurally to clarify the approved rules, we'll do that. If we need to modify the rules that have been approved and published in the Colorado Register, after we start learning some of this stuff, we'll pull this group back together and we'll come in with some suggested changes to the rules, just like we've done suggested tables and everything else, and walk through that with the TAC, and then do another administrative rulemaking in order to change the rules that we find are not working or need tweaked. But if I can clarify more stuff, if we can clarify more stuff without an administrative rulemaking, yeah, we're open to doing that.
Mhm. Yeah, and then one thing as a more of a reminder is that we are gathering information from all the locals, right? What their local snow and wind and fire suppression, yes or no's, all that stuff still. And so we will still have reference documents that you can utilize from the design and manufacturing standpoint, of where have a better projection of where these structures can go if you do a region 1 or a region 2, right? The problem that we're running into is some of these jurisdictions, they use the ASC hazard tool as their verification for snow loads and wind loads in their jurisdiction. And some use a map, some use elevations, some just do across the board one snow load, right? So we're trying to account for all that in the tool or this table itself. But the ASC hazard tool, as of today, just based on our thought process, is that the ASC hazard tool, based on the 2024, is going to have the most current information on there for a specific point at any jurisdiction, right? So even if the jurisdiction did across the board one snow load and we're less than that, we know that that specific site is that snow load based on that ASC hazard tool, right? And the ASC standards. So in those situations, that's what I'm saying, is we can have those conversations with the locals, have them submit that evidence to us. But based on what they have, even though they show a higher value, doesn't necessarily mean that it's accurate, right? We don't know if that local did averages and they said, hey, we're between 35 roof snow load and a 50-pound roof snow load. So we're going to say across the board, we're 42 roof snow load for the entire jurisdiction, right? So the ASC hazard tool seems to be the most accurate way to confirm that the design is in the correct region. And then we use the local data and the data that we collected to as a secondary verification that we are going to the correct region for this design.
Yep. Donnie, I want to move back to the slides here in just a second, but just as an example of what, and that's one of the reasons that we went to the 24 code set, right? Was to get ahead of the design criteria requirements that we're seeing adopted. And I went through about 30 jurisdictions on Monday, and there are buildings without building departments. There are jurisdictions with a permit department. There is some stuff on different, and even those with the building department, sometimes you see the adopted codes and the wind and snow values from the 2006 or 2009 IBC I codes in the city ordinances. So it's a deep dive into those, but we do believe that we're going to be offering a very safe product when we approve these plans and when we come up with the design criteria based on what we're finding from the locals. All right, Donna, you want to go to the next slide?
Yeah, so we can get this. All right, so just to continue for that section, all the state is 115B ult. So that's that change that I told you that we'll talk about a little more from the wind load regions. Is that when we were or when I was looking at the different local jurisdictions, there's quite a few that start at 115. I would say a good majority of jurisdictions start at 115 at least, right? At least on the eastern and western flat areas of Colorado. But I was trying to figure out why it was 115. And so looking at the historical ICC books, the ASCE 7-10 actually labeled all of Colorado except for the special wind region as 115, right? And so that's why I believe a lot of locals just continued that, even though they adopted the 2018 and the 2021 and sometimes the 2024. They just kept 115, even though the new ASC hazard tool has it like at 104. I think the highest I saw was 111. But to stay consistent across the board for Colorado, we felt that it'd be best that we stay at 115, although ASC has a lower wind speed for certain locations. The one thing that is not clear is if that if the topographic effect was considered as part of that area. We know that Colorado is not flat. There are hills. You go to the eastern parts of Colorado and western parts especially. And so starting at 115 is a good starting point. And that's just a good base point to say like, hey, 115 is the minimum anywhere in Colorado is going to be 115, except if you are doing a project in a special wind region area, which you can verify using the ASC hazard tool, whether or not you're in a special wind region. They do have an overlay. You can also use the tables that are in the IBC and IRC for your wind tables for the risk category 2, exposure C. But just remember, if you're doing a risk category 3 or 4 in the ASC 22, it does require you to account for the tornado provisions. And so if you do have a risk category 3 or 4, or in the special wind region, you will have to confirm that that specific wind speed using that ASC hazard tool. But just generally speaking, all of Colorado is going to be 115, except for the special wind region. Okay. Special wind region must use known local data or SEAC special wind map, whichever is more specific to the site. So like I was explaining earlier, the SEAC document for the special wind region map only covers a portion of Colorado. It doesn't cover the southern areas of Colorado for any special wind regions. I believe that's what the SEAC is trying to do now, is to get that lower portion, if not update the upper portion of Colorado as well. But as of now, that's the most accurate information we have. And a lot of locals that we were looking at in those special wind regions use that SEAC map. So why not just utilize that as a tool? The table aligns with the map. So if you look at the map for 700 years, it goes 115, 125, 140, 155, 165. It actually goes higher. But anybody who's building over 165, that's just going to be a site-specific structure, we're going to have to utilize the local data where the map, the SEAC map doesn't cover for sure. But if it does cover it in the upper portions of Colorado, then you can still utilize that the SEAC special wind region map. Okay. Wind regions and table align with risk category 2, like I said, exposure C. And then if local wind value is greater than 115 in locations not in the special wind region, locals must provide a case study of why that location needs to be a higher value. So I think we do have a couple jurisdictions that are 120 and not 115 in the eastern plains area. It's not known why they have that higher value, but based on the SEAC data, it shouldn't be anything more than 115. Like I said, the highest I saw was 111. But based on the SEAC overlay map, and then also the map that is in the IBC and IRC, everything should be between 110 and 105. So 115 is going to be the minimum. And if the locals, again, have something that's higher, then they need to provide us a case study of why they need to have the higher wind region designation. Okay. Any questions on that? No? All right, sorry, I didn't see this change. All right, so using the minimum tables, again, these are just the minimums, right? Minimum climate zone 7 for the thermal envelope, except for regional models known to be set in region 4 or the thermal zone 4. Can use seismic tables in the IBC or IRC for general seismic region locations, and for border locations between two seismic regions, confirm applicable structure type seismic data by using the ASE hazard tool. So you'll see that the map kind of just gives you a border of what the seismic region is in Colorado. But if you're like right on the border of a B or a C, the best way to confirm whether or not it needs to be a B or a C, the ASE data tool, when you select the seismic data indicator, it will give you whether or not it's in B or C. So generally speaking, a majority of Colorado is going to be B, but there are going to be areas in Colorado that are a C. And if you're on the border of the map, don't guess, just use the tool. The tool will tell you exactly what that seismic region is going to be. Okay. This way, this kind of eliminates having to look up every jurisdiction's seismic information, because the tool itself will give you the exact data that's needed for that site project. Okay. But generally speaking, if you're just building a model, not knowing where it's going, if you build to the minimum seismic B, majority of Colorado's seismic B, I don't know what the percentage of it is going to be, but you know that majority of Colorado's in seismic B, so that structure should be able to go to any jurisdiction as long as it meets or exceeds the wind and snow load requirements, and then the seismic criteria is B or less. So we do have some A's in Colorado, but I think it's in the upper right corner of Colorado. Okay. Regional models are minimum class 1, except when it's known that the unit is going to a location in a zero hazard location. So if this is especially going to be relevant when you're doing like a lot model. I'm not sure where this is going, but just as a starting point, if you design it to a class 1, you know for a fact that it'll be accepted anywhere that's a class 1, or anywhere that does not have a hazardous location for that specific site, right? But if you do design a structure and it the structure itself actually falls within the class 2, that structure does have to comply with class 2 requirements. Okay, so again, this is just the minimum. And I think that's, oh no, you already went to the next slide. Okay. So fire suppression is required if locals adopt ordinances that require fire suppression for their jurisdiction, but will be designed to the 13D for IRC and per applicable systems in the IBC for models occupancy use. So generally speaking, IBC will tell you when a fire suppression is required. There's not a lot of locals that I know of, or even through just the plan reviews that I've done for the state in the past 5 years, where they amend the IBC for fire suppression. Most of them keep it consistent. But IRC is the one that it varies by location. And even within a jurisdiction, it can say like, hey, if you fit this criteria, then you require a fire suppression. If you're in this location, you require fire suppression, right? You might have jurisdictions across the board that require fire suppression, right? So it's a little more harder. So you do have to look at the local ordinances for that. And then one thing that we are trying to figure out is the best process. Let's say as of today, we have them recorded as not requiring fire suppression, but January 1st, typically when the locals adopt new codes, maybe in their ordinances, they're going to put fire suppression requirements in there. What is going to be the approval process? I'm not sure if we necessarily have to go through a whole approval process, just for a local to start implementing fire suppression systems. That is a life safety issue. I'm not going to question whether or not the fire department needs fire suppression for a house or not. The code already requires it across the board, but the locals determined that, hey, for this jurisdiction, we do need it for various reasons. Maybe it's just a application to us, is letting us know, like, hey, giving you a heads up, we are going to start requiring fire suppression in our jurisdiction, and then we can change our table that we have the data. I don't think we need like a case study. I'm not even sure what kind of case study you would need to prove that you need fire suppression in a jurisdiction. And then there might be a lot of variables to that. Like I said, it could be based on a development. It could be based on coverage for the fire department itself. So there's a lot of things to think about on that part. So look at the ordinances for the fire suppression requirements. Structures going to locations that have known local radon mitigation requirements. I think across the board, this is pretty easy. You don't have to provide radon, but you do have to provide details for the structure, right? Just how does that radon system penetrate your structure when they do install that radon mitigation system on site? Okay. Mechanical load calcs. This is still one of those things that we still have not found anything that gives us any kind of wiggle room. Again, we based on what we found, there is a understanding that 5-degree difference in the design doesn't make that big of a difference, but that's just somebody's opinion. There's not actually any data that we can pin the decision on and say, like, hey, we can give a 5-degree variance. But as a solution to that, we just still use the site-specific information for that mechanical load calcs, and then another version, or not another version, another alternate to that is if you use the Energy Star. I'm not sure if you guys use this for other projects, but Energy Star does have an updated table. It just uses the 99 percentile. So if you are using the 99 percentile of the Energy Star table, you're going to be either meeting or exceeding the locals design criteria for the winter design temps for your low calcs, for your wet and dry bulb temps. Okay. And then all other criteria in the table is just the minimums. I think it's just pretty straightforward. Okay.
And Tim, you've got a question?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So Donnie, I think back in the original table for the radon, it just shows IRC, and that was kicking you over to this footnote. So the intent is that, let me see, IRC Appendix AF. And so that's just strictly for anything built under the IRC and not multifamily or anything under IBC, since there isn't an appendix for radon and IBC. Is that correct?
Yeah, so actually the next slide is the footnotes. So footnotes G and H, it does talk about the IRC meeting the minimum 301, which does have to be changed. That got flagged. When I originally put that footnote, it was under the 21 before we decided to go to the 24. So I do got to update for the 24 codes, but H, there are jurisdictions in Colorado that do require for IBC structures. I think Don from our TAC team says that in his jurisdiction. I think neighboring jurisdictions require it for theirs. For, I believe, they're multifamily projects, but I think just across the board we put IBC structures. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Tim. So just this slide that was sent out also has the old version of the footnote versus the new version. And so we changed A and B, streamlined them a little bit and clarified a little bit. So be sure and read those changes to the footnotes. And then here's what the new red line reads for those footnotes. Donnie, any other comments on the footnotes?
No, again, as you can see, it's still the draft. So if there's anything that you think we need to add for clarification in the table, please let us know. I'm still having the one-on-one meetings with everybody, but doesn't mean you have to wait until then to let me know. The sooner the better, because if you let me know sooner, I can talk to the other TAC members of the possible change, and then see if what their thoughts are until we can propose it to everybody with the final I guess, outcome of those conversations were. But yeah, that's it.
Hey,
Thanks, Don.
Donnie, I've got a quick question.
Yeah.
And sorry, my hand raised, it doesn't work on my phone here at the
Oh,
conference, but
Oh,
as you guys were talking, the thought had occurred to me that, if I'm designing something in a region 4 snow load, is it implied or is it implicit that that design will work for all lower design criteria? I.e., if the factory wanted to say, hey, we're going to just go ahead and go for region 4 across the board, can they place their product in any of the regions up to that region? Is that something we need to write up to make
I think
part of the rules, or is that implied?
Yeah, I think just for clarifications for anybody who reads it, let's just add that in there. I think generally speaking, TAC knows from our initial conversations, right? That if you build to that higher region, you already know that that region is going to exceed any of those other regions. So you should be able to be able to install that in that location, right?
Perfect.
But just for clarification, we can add that in there that if as long as that region meets or exceeds that site data, it can be installed there. And then maybe we can put an example or something.
but
Okay.
yes, Dean,
Terrific.
that's the intent. We'll make sure that is well publicized, and it ties back to some of the early discussions we had on overbuild and where to draw the lines on these regions. So yes, but that is the intent. Okay.
Oh, Sam, there is one more thing I want to add just real quick. So
Okay.
Just said for everybody to think about the table itself, right? We're not only just creating the regions, but we would like to try to create the table in a way that this is the model that the manufacturer wants to use, and try to get away from doing site-specific work, right? If I'm only off by 5 pounds and I go to the next region higher, it's probably a lot better to get that one plan approved, and then knowing that I can put that structure in multiple locations using the regional model is probably going to be a better outcome than having to do like, hey, I'm right in between one region, I'm just going to do site specific. Sometimes that might be the better scenario, but in most cases, it might be better just to use the regional model. So take a look at the table. Does this table align with how you manufacture, how you design the products that you receive from manufacturers if you're a seller, right? Does this table work, right? I'm going based on information I'm gathering not from only the local design criteria that they have. I'm looking at plan reviews that we received in the past. I'm looking at site-specific information from the SEAC, all the conversions from the SEAC to ASCE 7-22. I'm looking at all this data, and this is the best that I can come up with as of today, right? But I need you to look at this. Does this actually fit what you believe the regional models need to be? Okay.
Thanks, Donnie. All right, so other 002 updates. Building contractor education plan. We still plan to partner with the existing education provider or providers. We want to offer a hybrid, a live and online education to refine the content and provide the greater flexibility across the state for building contractors to get their education and registration as quickly as possible. And then we would like to eventually move to an on-demand learning management system, especially as we get updates and building contractors are going to be renewing. To be honest with you, we want to do the live and hybrid, live and online system a couple times just to work out any kinks of that and get feedback from the building contractors, the participants, and others on what modifications before we jump straight into an on-demand LMS. Shooms Coda. I don't see Andre, but Cole, I think, you got any updates for us?
Nothing much, so I'll jump on camera here. Just continuing to work with Donnie on fine-tuning that table and integrating that data that we've collected and continuing to collect that data. And here, obviously, to help technically advise with the code adoptions and things like that. So I think the way that you've explained everything and what we've done is in line with the conversations that we've had. And it was great to see you too on Friday. So thank you for coming to the Colorado chapter stuff. We appreciate your presence and what we're doing here. So
Yep, you bet. Actually, I went to the board meeting and did a quick update to the CCICC board on Thursday night. And then Donnie and I went out Friday to the business meeting for CCICC and presented to them where we are with the implementation of 002, because they was a very important partner in the development of this bill. And we are thankful for them to get input back. And then, of course, Shumscoda has done a great job in kind of keeping us on track. And we are, as we approach the finish line here, we're going to get some final reports from them that will be part of the package that will go to the State Housing Board as backup.
we are working on those, and we'll have them for you soon,
Yep.
hopefully.
Yep. And along the whole way, just to share with everybody else, along the whole way, Shumscoda has done a good job, and we have weekly meetings with the team and providing memos for us to document why we what they think and how that applies to what we think, and these not only the design criteria, but also things like we've tagged them with things like accessibility and some other wind and snow and 2021 IECC versus 2024 IECC energy code. That has taken a lot of time and a lot of thought, and they bring in special team members to kind of walk through some of those things with us. It's been a great collaborative effort.
I do want to mention though, so at the board meeting and at the training that they did on Friday, we did provide a draft graphic that is in the process of being finalized. And when that is finalized, I think it'll be a real good go-to for getting information on manufactured and how they're installed and what requirements are there. So that is forthcoming, and just want to let you know that we will be presenting that to you guys when it gets finished. We're just putting some final touches on there. Donnie gave us some language that we added in there, and I think it's going to look great and be a good resource for not just jurisdictions, but also for the manufacturers. So
Great. Thanks, Cole.
no problem.
All right, wrap up. So some of you may have, all right, so Eric, you have got a question in the chat. Wondering how component level offsite construction wall panels for sets of roof assemblies for single family homes will be affected by 002. Any material available for which addresses this, which you can point me to, and will this be discussed in an upcoming call, such as the one for manufacture on Tuesday? So there, the program is responsible for closed panel construction of all types, like you mentioned there. And so we adopted with not this code cycle, but the previous code cycle, we adopted the G6 standard on panelization. And so we use that as a reference document. We would be happy to talk to you, Eric, about how that works real life and on the ground. But as you would know, the panelization seems to be gaining some traction. We see manufacturers doing just panels and then working with GCs to install all those panels, well, to be delivered on site on flatbed and then pulled off and assembled by a GC. So that comes into play also with the building contractor pieces that we're talking about, because we consider that to be the on-site completion of that unit. And so There is some, we did consider that in all the rules that we were doing. So happy to go through any details with you, Eric. If you want to jump online and come off mute and voice any concerns you have, we can always set up a separate meeting. But yes, this program does cover closed panel construction for any type of we consider it a factory built structure, and all our definitions and rules apply.
Excellent. Thank you, Sam, for taking my question, and Donnie for your note. And yeah, I'll send you all an email maybe to follow up. Would love to meet and go into more depth. Don't need to take everyone's time on the call now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cool. Absolutely, Eric. Happy to help out. So some of you may have noticed Sean Rogan's not here. He was our Climate Zone 4 representative. He has moved on, and so we have reached out to CCI, the Colorado Counties Incorporated, who gave us his nomination, and asked them to if they have any other nominations they would like to make. But if you know of anybody that's in Climate Zone 4 that could be, and I'm specifically looking at Sam and Tim, and I don't see Don today, but Don Bantam. If you guys know of somebody down in that area that would be interested, let us know. If any of the manufacturers use a chief building official in any of that Zone 4 country, which is pretty much the southeast corner of the state. It's not a straight line southeast corner, but that area down in that places would be useful. We know Baca County and Prioris County don't have building departments, so that just leaves a couple counties down there, and I think Walsenburg is probably the biggest city down in that location. Okay, send me names. Outreach, we just talked about the February 13th meeting to CCICC. Tonight, Donnie and I are going to the Hispanic Contractors of Colorado business meeting and dinner. We're going to talk a little bit. Allie Spray is our representative for TAC. She's a TAC member, and she's also the executive director for that group. So she invited us to come and explain a little bit about what factory built structures are and the implementation of 002, especially as we start rolling out contractor registration and education requirements. The interested parties meetings, we've kind of alluded to that already. So we're having a whole series of these before we finalize the red lines. Those start next week. Manufacturers will be on the 24th. The third-party agencies will be February 26th. March 5th, we're doing two of them, one for registered installers and inspectors, and the others for sellers. March 10th will be the building contractors. And then March 11th, other Colorado state agencies. And then March 12th, we're going to reach out to all the local governments on that date. I will say one other thing on outreach. We are getting ready to send another email to all local governments and grab their minimum design criteria. As you know, Shimskota did a good job in getting a nice representative sample across the state. But as we look at building our supporting tables that go with the design criteria, we still have a lot of outreach to do. We're going to reach out and we'll hopefully get the word out to ICC also, or CCICC also. But we're going to give them another week or two, provide us their minimum design criteria so we can plug them into our tables, and then make that tool available for everybody. Rulemaking 2 schedule, as we've this is the finish line document, right? So we expect to have those comprehensive draft rules available to send to TAC and any interested parties on the 11th of March. March 18th will be the meeting for TAC to discuss and finalize the proposed rules. And then March 31st is our final notice. We will file the rules with the Secretary of State for rulemaking. And then May 5th is the public hearing with the State Housing Board. May 25th, those rules will be have a legal review done between the 5th and the 25th, and those then will be filed again with the Secretary of State and be published on June 10th. And then June 30th, these rules become effective. March 4th is our next meeting. We are going to review all TAC recommended amendments. We're going to finalize. Now, I want to pause here and say that we are moving forward with the assumption that everybody has looked at the 21 versus 24 IECC. We're moving forward with the 24 IECC. I kind of almost want to draw a line in the sand. If we have any objection to that, we need to discuss them at the March 4th meeting. But we think what we heard was that 24 IECC was fine, and that's what we're moving forward to. Okay. And then we also want to kind of review our audit processes and our responsibility matrix at that meeting also. And then we're just about done. Somehow I've raised my own hand again, so let me click on getting rid of that. There we go. And then the 18th, which is the last regularly scheduled agenda meeting, we'll look at those, the final ready for print regional design criteria, the edits to the administrative rules, the responsibility matrix, and the audit processes. Now, with that said, we did add down here, and so there's the March 4th meeting, and there's also a time change on that. We're going to bump that up to 8 o'clock. And then we've added a tentative meeting March 25th from 10 to 12 if we can't get everything done on the 18th. Mo, you had your hand up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about the tentative meeting, making sure everybody was aware of that, but you just covered it. Thank you.
Okay, good. So yeah, March 25th meeting, everybody should have seen that invite. Go ahead and accept that, and just realize our expectation is to be done on the 18th. But there is one more possibility for another meeting. I think we and every TAC member and the interested parties that we've had have done a great job in representing their own assignment on the Technical Advisory Committee, and I appreciate the time you have committed so far. You'll hear this thank you speech. I'll polish it up a little bit also for the 18th. But we do appreciate you, and it has been a great collaborative effort. And I think everybody has, there's been a little give and take, and we understand that that's how this works in this type of meeting. And so with that said, Tim, you've got some thoughts?
No, just a question. I was looking at my calendar for March 4th, and I didn't see any meeting. At least maybe I deleted the meeting that you sent previously. I mean, it might have been from a different time frame and it went away, but I don't see the one from 8 to 10.
Okay, we'll double check that, Tim, and make sure you're and all the other TAC members are on that March 4th, 8 to 10 meeting.
Perfect. Yep. And my calendar's open, so that works. Thank you.
Good. All right, cool. All right. Well, thank you all. I'm going to end the slideshow, and then we'll wrap this thing up. There's the stop share button. All right. Again, thanks everybody. I'm going to stop the recording, give everybody back the rest of their day. And again, we're always open for emails and thoughts after you've had a chance to digest what we've talked today, in addition to the materials that were sent out previously. It's taking about 1 day to get these recordings up afterwards. Zoom sends me an email. I send it to my team. My team gets it uploaded to the website. The website has to be refreshed, but it is only taking about a day to get these things up done. So again, thank you all. And if not before, we'll see you on March 4th.